But anyway, that's how it rolls. Yeah, again, I'll just wait a minute and then I'll get started. And hopefully some of you guys can join me. This isn't off to the best start this weekend. Let's see if YouTube will let me go live now. All right. I think I'm live. What a nightmare. So we're going to nix that. I'm going to go back here. All right, I'm up. We're rolling. So, well, that was great. 2 failed attempts. But yeah, basically want to start with a rant of, the nonsense of having, people self-determining themselves as ski boot doctors or wizards. And you're in Deer Valley right now, Jay. Great conditions. Awesome. Good to hear. How was your day on the mountain? If there's a bit of power, but yeah, Park City is always next level. And thanks for the nice comment this week on the newest video. Yeah, I hope that was enjoyable. And yeah, look forward to doing the next few videos in that series. Yeah, and basically going back to, steering clear of the gurus, the people who are a bit too much focused on, being magicians, being real secretive about what they do on boot work. It's kind of a red flag. And, if they're pretty humble and they're just boot fitters, then, that's the guys you should really be dealing with. Unless they're recommended by someone else. It's the self-appointed that I think are probably taking it a little bit too far in some cases. And, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of bullshit, really. So, there's a lot of egos in this industry surrounding the whole boot fitting game. So, yeah, and I think it just sets a false expectation of what you can expect from them in their service side of things and what they can actually do for you with fitting a boot. There's definitely different levels of boot fitters out there. So, yeah, just being aware of it and just, being a little bit smarter about who you decide to work with on it. But it also, the problem with it also, it absolves like the clients, the skiers of what they need to do on a day-to-day maintenance wise when it comes to their boots. So yeah, that's pretty poorly explained. But a bit of a few things have ticked me off on that lately, and a few emails coming in where, yeah, just be aware, do a little bit of research, and, just speak to people beforehand before you go for a fitting. Things can go wrong if you're just putting all your trust out to someone who's maybe faking the funk a little bit. They're sort of putting on a bit too much of a show. So that's where things can go wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, some people are great. But, as I said in the previous video on foot assessment, it's not a medical procedure. You're not going in for surgery. It's not something that, requires this level of, you don't need a 4-year degree in boot fitting. The best guys come with experience, are pretty humble, and yeah, that's who you really want to, work with and spend your time with if you need to do any extra customization. But yeah, and along with that, I guess, it's that whole attitude of the secrecy behind it all. It's what I'm really trying to cut through a little bit, where, if you're too stupid to know what's going on with boots, they want to stand over you and pretend that they have all the secret knowledge and you don't know anything. And I really don't like that. I don't think it's a good interaction. I don't think that's the good sort of power dynamic you should be looking for. Because, it wants to be a two-way street, and, you're the one that's paying money for the service. So you're not the peasant sitting there, just handing your money over. So, yeah, that's something I hope I can fight against a little bit, because it is all too common. And, yeah, there's even the fact that, you'll go in to get something fixed and they'll take your boots out the back, maybe do nothing to them, come back out and, just want to go, oh, yeah, doing some magic to them and not really not really talking with you about it, about what's actually being done and what does resolve the issue, what approach to take, and what things you can do to mitigate any issues you're having. So, yeah, basically a bit of, just cut through the shit and trying to avoid any of that nonsense. But there is, there can be a little bit of placebo effect, I guess, when it comes to, people overthinking maybe some little problems and how conditions can change day to day and affect certain feelings, certain sensations. So I can see how that can work, but for the most part, it's just a bit silly when people aren't willing to work through the issue directly with the skier. So rant over. That's all good. Let's go back to last week and a couple of the questions that came in on the video. Ski to lunch, got foggy and poor viz, should be better tomorrow. Awesome. We'll have a great day tomorrow, Jay. And I watched a vlog. I think it was Lucas Catania. I don't know if any of you guys watch him on YouTube, but he had a good one from Deer Valley, and it looked pretty nice while he was skiing there. But anyway, I just want to go back to some of the comments from last week and follow up with a few answers. And starting with Scuba 453. Now, Scuba said, I also have very high arches plus narrow feet. Are the mentioned Dalbello Pantera also an option for me? Any other recommendations to try? Looking forward to your upcoming orthotic series. Cheers. So the Pantera, it's more of a medium wide fitting boot. So although the Pantera is really good in regards to basically having pretty good instep height, the other boots I'm going to recommend is going to be more down the lines of, if you like the Dalbello and you want to go the three-piece boot, I'm going to recommend you take a closer look at the Lupo HD, which is that boot. So there we're more looking at, if I can get that. Anyway, if I can get that on screen. So you're more looking at a 98 millimeter last, still a great instep height, still that same three-piece design. And that is probably my pick over the Pantera when you have a narrower foot, high instep, if you want to run with that Dalbello. And then a few other options I'm just going to throw out to you, just so you can see what else may work. I'm going to recommend the Head Nexo Lite, which is that one. Or you could look at the Core if you want to have the walk mode. If you're doing a bit of touring, have that ability. That, again, is just a good one, keeping in that narrow last, higher instep volume, a good one to look at. Then next we can go to the Ranger 130 is going to be another one I'll recommend. Again, in that same realm of what you're looking for. If I can get that on screen. There we go. And here's a boot that gives you all those same options again. It has a really nice lightweight liner, a really good cam buckle locking power strap. It is that medium volume they're saying, but it's 99 last, so still pretty good for that narrow foot. Again, another option I'll throw out. And then there's one more, and that is going to be the Cochise. So here is the Cochise 120, which is a good all-rounder. You got the 130 as well if you wanted to go down that track. But having that instep height can be a pretty good option for you there. Pretty easy on and off with that boot too. So yeah, that's going to be my other recommendation, and thanks for the comment. And then we have got Chris with, I use the Head Edgelite 130 because I got measured to have wide feet. However, now that I wear them, they do feel wide at the forefoot, even though they are great otherwise to ski in. It does worry me a bit, but I can move my forefoot a little. Now, should this movement be cause for concern? Is there a good way to make them less voluminous? I use the 26.5 ones, which I believe are 102 last. My width measured to be 110, which seems improbably wide. That is going to come down to, well, a few things. Number one is going to be basically what they're feeling for you, and taking out that extra space definitely can be done. I'd start, depending on what you're using for footbed, I'd start with getting a nice footbed to support your foot, combining that with a volume reducer as your first approach, basically. Yeah, if you're 110 measurement in the forefoot and you're in a 102, 26, that should be nice and secure. So I think it's probably more of a height thing. And yeah, do you measure out at a strong 26.5 in foot length? And also I'd like to know your instep volume to really make a better judgment on that. It is obviously just a full volume fitting issue, so taking a bit of that space away. It is a bit of a shame that you're feeling that, you know, if you fit true to size, yeah, really you should be nice and secure, but it all comes down to your foot mobility and what you're feeling as well, how much compression that your feet can take. So see how you go with buckle pressure, and I'd start with a volume reducer on that. Then we've got Gorski Nunavut. Sadly, sofa views, people are screwed. Thanks, man. Serenade me. Is it possible for a boot liner to start to become packed out after less than 10 uses? I love my new boots, but every time I wear them, it's a different experience. Now, the first time I could tighten them a lot and felt nice and snug. Perfect, actually. By third or fourth time, I find it's really easy to get them too tight, cutting off the circulation of my toes. I have to completely unbuckle them at the bottom of the hill and redo them at the top of the lift. I also cannot sit down and relax in these boots. If I'm standing up or skiing, they're great, but if I go take a break and sit down, my toes fall asleep. It's really annoying. I've pondered getting replacement liners. Not sure if that'd make a difference. Also, my extremities get very cold easily. Need to use toe warmers or my toes die. And what do you think if one of the pressure points in your boots happens to be right beneath the metal buckle thingy? It's not like you can punch that out. Bummed I missed you. Must have been working. So there is a lot going on in that question. As far as a liner being packed out in less than 10 uses, no. And Johan's replied here, and I sort of agree with him a little bit there, and maybe your boot is a little bit large. So the first thing I definitely recommend you do is a bit of a shell check and make sure that the sizing's within the right realm. But then in the other side of things, although they're feeling a bit loose sometimes, they're also putting a lot of pressure on your feet, and you've got some pressure points cutting off blood flow to your toes. So what boot are we actually in? Doesn't say, but yeah, definitely you could look to change up the liner, or you could look to do some liner alterations to, you know, you've really got to pinpoint where the pressure's coming from though. So what I recommend is next time you are sitting down in the boots, you're losing feeling, take the boots off and take your socks off, take some photos of your feet. Usually this is going to show up, you know, any pressure points will show up as sort of red and inflamed, or you'll see some blood vessels getting really prominent and standing out, and that's where they're getting cut off. So that can be helpful to really pinpoint the location. If you're saying it's in under the buckle, you actually can still do some work under a buckle. You can take the buckle off and do some stretching and reattach it. So it's not all a complete loss if you need to do some reshaping around a buckle. Usually the way that a buckle will close the boot though is not really going to put direct pressure in underneath where it sits. So keep in mind that might be the location, but it could be your liner within causing the issue rather than the buckle itself. Because how a boot will close is you've got that buckle lifting that tension, wrapping it completely over. It's not increasing anything extra directly under that screw. So yeah, possibly there you need to look at the liner first. It'd be my first port of call to sort of tackle that. And yeah, what else were we saying? Then it's management. Yeah, socks are going to be a huge thing in warm toes. So really thin wool socks is always my recommendation to start. And yeah, depending on what toe warmers you're using, if you're throwing in those chemical toe warmers, I'd highly recommend you take them back out of your boots. They're not a good thing to have on the inside. And yeah, that will just cause more issues. So possibly look to some heated socks, but I recommend just a good wool sock to start. Keep it nice and thin. See where these pressure points are happening. And yeah, if you want to completely change to a different liner, that could make all the difference. So yeah, a little bit more info required, but you need to look at the shells. You really need to take a look at where these pressure points are happening and going on from there. Got Jay again coming in. I put C ankle pads in my right boot and used a full ankle wrap in my left, which is smaller by a half size. Left foot is getting very cold, and not just the toes, it's cold up to the midfoot. So yeah, so again, that's probably blood flow in and around your ankles or down the back of your leg. Because of that, yeah, you're not getting that with just the C pads. So yeah, I would take out the wrap for sure and just go some C pads on that liner as well. Probably the best place to start with that, because that's definitely likely a blood flow issue, and it's likely on the inner ankle. So you could also just try a C wrap on the outer side, or even change it up, cut the C wrap into a J, and really focus on the placement where you're putting that pressure on the inner ankle. Cool. Yeah, going back then to, we had probably a question last week I didn't answer very well, which was Mikey Hoffman's question about the, oh, here we go, we got another one. Why would my liner be moving in my XT130 Lang? Fit is great. I've used the same boot for years and I just replaced it with the new model, but the liner moves a bit in the shell. That is interesting. I'm not too sure on why you're experiencing that. That's kind of weird. Is it when you're skiing, or is it just when you're doing a bit of touring? What movement are you feeling? Is forward and back? Yeah, I find that to be a little strange. Definitely check the sizing you got going on while skiing. And it's definitely the liner that's moving. You're not feeling it just more in your feet. What are you noticing there? Like, if it's something like, are you like crunching your toes as you're skiing, or if you can sort of tell me a bit more on the movement you're feeling. But yeah, that is a strange sensation to be having. Currently have a Scarpa Mastrali XT. Shell fit length and width seem correct to me and feels snug but not too tight. However, my heel doesn't seem to get locked into the boot very well. Yeah, and that can just be a mismatch of boot to heel pocket. That's going to be a case of buckle pressure. Again, it's going to be a case of, you know, if you haven't seen them, I'd definitely recommend looking at my liner sleeves. They will instantly, just with the sleeve alone, take in all that extra space at the heel, and it won't prevent the articulation of the liner. You'll still get full movement in touring mode. Yeah, that can really help. I figured this would be a volume issue, but it isn't. It doesn't seem to have totally solved it. Yeah, so it's probably just not really a volume from above, maybe just side, lateral space around the heel. So that's where you want to tighten in that liner and get it locked in a bit better. Yeah, so that's what I recommend. More forward and back. No, I can hear the liner move. That is weird. Are you running a footbed in them, Adam? Definitely that can help, keep things a bit tighter. If you're just using the stock insole, maybe getting something a little bit more rigid front to back is going to help hold the liner in place. Usually the nice, they have a bit of grippiness on the bottom of the liner to help keep it in place. You could maybe do something to the boot board or the liner to sort of help grip a little more, if that's something that's going to continue to happen. Yes, I'm running a footbed. Okay, so just double check also that your footbed isn't shorter than your liner. As long as that's cut to length properly. If it's shorter, again, that can definitely could cause some sliding issues with how it feels, because it's got, space to move forward. But other than that, I can't think of anything. I'd definitely take the liner out, have a look at the shell. It could be a defect. If you can compare sizing of liner to shell, you may be able to get a warranty on it if there's something really wrong. Also, check all the stitching, check the sole material. There would be ways to solve it. It is sort of a strange feeling. If everything's looking okay, I wouldn't have anticipated that happening. Great question. Footbed's correct. Yeah, well, that should all be locked in. I'd definitely look at those few things, and then did you get fit up by a local shop, or did you buy them online? Hey, no worries, Adam. Yeah, thanks for your question. Sorry, it's tough to be helpful on such interesting problems that you're feeling. It's going to be harder if you did buy them online to really get anything addressed with that. You'd want someone else to maybe look at that with you if you can't figure out what's going on with that. And obviously a shop could then contact Lang directly to find a solution. So keep throwing the questions out of me. That's what I was going to get to. Mikey Hoffman's question. Last week he was talking about the difference between Cabrio and overlap design and performance getting out of them. So I'll address that. I'll come back to you, Tim, in one sec. And that was really about the performance and how the boot's flexing. So basically, to readdress that for you, Mikey, I just wanted to, talk a little bit more about, with the Cabrio design boots, yes, the reliance on the flex is all from the front tongue. So they're not generally laterally as stiff as an overlap boot. So, that's where you're getting a lot of people who prefer more free ski, free riding, going into that style, versus an overlap, which is going to have more lateral stiffness. You can generate more power. The way they flex is bulging, cuff to shell. There's more of an interaction through the boot in how the boot flexes. So that gives a little bit more rebound, and you're getting more feel and more performance when you're carving the boot or carving your skis with the boot. So just having that little bit different design, there's more power transfer through the overlap. So that's where you're going to feel the difference. That's the design difference mainly. With the Cabrio being a little bit more reliant on that forward front impact, great for landings, but there's more power generation through the overlap design. Also the fitting can be a little bit more precise, generally because you can get a closer wrapping and fit throughout both aspects. So I hope that is a little bit better answer than last week. Does the Lang go up in last size as the boot size goes up? Yes, it does, Adam. Yeah, it'll widen out about 2 millimeters for each incremental size. What would I think about getting a higher volume Intuition liner? Yes, you could try that. Could work quite well. You could go to one of the touring specific liners if you wanted to try that. Generally what you'll find is you're not getting much more material in around the heels there. So again, for trying to get more grab at the heel, the Intuition liner might not be your best solution. I'd probably try and modify your current one first and see how you go. You could go an Intuition Tour liner, and that could help take up space possibly, again, you're just going to have to see how you go with that Mistrali. Mike A, I don't have Technica Mark 1 120 inserts anymore, and I need to get footbeds. Where to find the pattern? Oh, okay, so you've already taken the stock insoles completely out. Yeah, basically, unless you can go to a store and get the insole as a template, you're not going to be able to find the pattern anywhere. You basically need to gauge from the underside of the liner the length that you need. And then you can just do it by fit. If you can get the footbed in and then sort of, you're going to see how it fits within. Generally, you'll find a stitching right around the base of the liner. You don't want much bulging out the sides of that stitching. So keeping that width correct within the inside of the liner is going to be pretty important. Length's very easy to do. You'll notice the toes kicking up if the footbed's too long. So it's basically a little bit of trial and error, but you can gauge it by lining up the heels in the back of the liner, and you could sort of trace it upside down, footbed to liner to gauge that length. Unless you can get your hands on another stock insole that will work as a template. Back with Adam. So a 26.5 RX 130 LV would be 97 millimeters. Yes. Liner wrap then. Yeah, you could go the wrap liner if you wanted to. Even the Dreamliner. No, let me just go to Intuition's website. We can run through the options of what I'd recommend. So we are going to have, where's their good? That Pro Tour is going to be the one I'd recommend for you. Let's see if I can share that screen. Sorry, again, slow technical abilities. So maybe you'll find this one is not as voluminous as you'd like, but this is definitely the best one for articulation with a touring boot. So that is going to be the one I'd recommend. If you want to go an Intuition liner, you could go this one, or if you're going for pure volume, let's go to page 1, and this Dreamliner is probably one of the thicker models. There. But it's not going to be as good for when you're walking with them, even though there's not much restriction. But yeah, that's be what I'd be starting with. Did you see the video of the new Hawks Ultra 130 Professional on Helms Sun Valley channel? Lots of great options on the boot with the foam. Yes, I did see that. It was a pretty good breakdown. Yeah, I like the option of the injected liner. I think it's pretty cool. And I wasn't as I had a different idea of what the dual strap would be. And we'll see. It's got a lot going on. Sometimes you can throw too many things at a product, and it seemed like there was a bit too much Velcro as well as the elastic, and maybe they work great, but it's sort of almost looks like too much all at once. But I can't wait to have a closer look, try them on a few different boots and see how the fit goes. But yeah, definitely interesting, cool boot, great ideas, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the response is like. Yeah, the dual strap looks like it won't work well. I sort of agree, but I don't know until I have it in my hands. But yeah, as I say, it looks like he was just trying to do all too much at once, maybe with it. But again, I can't make a better judgment until I try them on a few things. Or you're saying the liner sleeves might be better. It's definitely going to be a more economical, quicker way to sort of solve your issue there, Tim. I'd recommend a liner sleeve on your current liner, might make all the difference. The reason being, you're not even adding any, you don't have to add the foam in to the sleeve itself. Even the sleeve alone just gives, it's a little bit harder to get your boots on because you've got to obviously open the liner up to stretch the neoprene to get your feet in. But it does give a better grab in around the heels. And then if you are really skinny back there, you can add J-bars in and lock it out. Or you can even just do one side or the other. So you get a lot of options, and it's $29 versus $200. So it may be a step to take before you go the intuition liner. So yeah, so there you go. Whatever you prefer there. Thanks for all your videos. I've learned much from them. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Any feedback on the latest video is one I was probably the most proud of what I've produced lately. I'm pretty excited going into this more in-depth boot fitting series. So hope you guys have checked it out, and if you've liked it. So I've been about half an hour. I'm going to give it another 15 this week, keep it pretty short. So throw the questions out at me, or if you've got anything to say, let's just have a chat. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, no worries. And yeah, I hope they should do a great job, and hopefully we'll sort them out completely. I'm pretty stoked on them, and they do the job well. But I don't know. I'm not just here to sell gear. It's not the point of the live stream. But yeah, I'm all about getting solutions. The shell on the 26.5 RX130 high volume was just small, and the 27.5 had a little too much room. Do you think the RX130 27 low volume could fit? Depends on your foot measurements. I'd likely say no, and it's generally not a good idea to upsize the size to make up the difference. Like the low volume is more in overall space through the boot. So even though you're going the centimeter up and a couple of millimeters wider through the forefoot width, as you go a whole size up, everything increases. So I'd tend to sort of steer more on the true to size or the smaller sizing, just because it's so much easier to give you some extra space if needed. Yeah, rather than trying to take space out of a boot, it's always the better approach. So I'd probably be a bit hesitant to be upsizing, and low volume won't take into account between the two, between medium volume and low volume, the spatial difference on the inside of the boot. Yeah, it won't counteract what you're feeling between the two. The part 1 boot fitting was very informational. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and you sure do know your anatomy. Anxiously waiting. Well, thank you, Jay. That's a exceptional compliment from an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah, I know I do have a fairly okay knowledge at the feet. Obviously, there's a lot of complexities. I'm not a podiatrist. I'm not at that sort of level. But knowing the anatomy, and I've worked with a lot of guys who are really into, more the biomechanics side of things, and, the whole foot interaction, and that's what interests me. So that's what's been really great to learn. And yeah, I love that whole side, getting more technical, knowing how to solve a few of those issues. And I think it's, it's sort of the obligation of boot fitters to know anatomy. Like, you're dealing with that every day. People should have more awareness of what, you're fitting a foot, you should know the structure, and, you should know a little bit more about the issues that people feel as far as yeah, what's going on with the feet. I bet most boot fitters have no idea where the cuneiform bone. Yeah, true. But, again, different levels, but yeah, people should be a little more trained up in it, and, people should be willing to know and willing to learn. Adam, thanks, man. Thank you. No, I appreciate anyone tuning in. yeah, I just have heaps of fun with the streams and the videos. So I am just grateful to be able to do it. So yeah, thanks for logging on. And yeah, how's surgery been this week, Jay? I guess you're on holidays if you're in Deer Valley. So maybe a nice week away from the operating table. What are you mainly working on as far as cutting and putting people back together? Do you deal with skiers, or is it just in general? Are you a specialist in any sort of main type of surgery? It's funny, people, you see people come in who've had, like bunion surgeries or, yeah, things where people have had their feet cut or, some gnarly stuff. And yeah, it's shoulder and knee. Yeah, well, knee, man. If you're a knee surgeon, you are going to be booked out heavy in this game for sure. I suppose you'd see a lot of skiers blown knees. And shoulder, that's a different one. Yeah, that's cool. What do I think of Dodge boots? I'm just curious. I haven't had a good enough look at the Dodge boots. A couple of streams ago, I was asked that as well, and I do need to buy a pair. Pretty heavy investment. I think we're looking at about $1,000. So I don't just have a spare grand sitting around too often. So yeah, as soon as I can, I'd love to get a pair and try them out. I like what they're doing. I like carbon fiber. I like their concept and their sort of the way they'll fit them up by photo or 3D scan, I think they might be doing now. So that's pretty cool. Great niche brand on the east coast of the States. And yeah, I'd love to have some time on snow in the Dodge and to have a bit of a closer look. They don't seem to be able to break in more mainstream. Not seeing them in a lot of stores. So yeah, maybe they're just more of a direct-to-customer model, and they're not looking to go down that wholesaling route, which is understandable with the type of product they offer. But always very interested. I like what they're doing. The more independent brands you can get, the better. So yeah, I think they're pretty cool. And yeah, sorry about early on, 2 live streams. It was pretty bad. I thought it was okay to maybe have a bit of the free ski World Cup showing, but FIS obviously didn't like that and they shut down my stream. So sorry to FIS. Shouldn't have done that, but whatever. We're up and running now. They would maybe send a pair for a real review. That would be cool. Yeah, that would be nice, but we'll see. I'm not looking to I would buy a pair given the chance, and I probably will. All right. Well, I'm probably going to check out there, guys. Thanks heaps for tuning in. If anyone's got anything else to throw out at me, I'll quickly answer it still. But yeah, hope everyone's having a great weekend and you've been out on snow and the storms keep coming into spring. Now, keep in mind, as spring, starts to approach and things get warmer, your boots will change. Things will get a bit looser. You will need to sort of change what you're doing. As far as management, you need to dry your liners, be a bit more vigilant with that. Especially for the morning still, they can be crisp and you'll freeze your feet, have all sorts of problems if you're not doing that. And obviously you're going to be increasing tension as you ski through the day. What do I think of the RX 130 LV? I think it's a great boot. Year to year, really solid. It's essentially just a more relaxed version of their RS. I like it. It's good. Fits your feet. It's perfect. Cool. Well, thanks, guys. It's coming in on 40 minutes, so a bit of a short one this week. And again, really appreciate everyone tuning in. And I will probably do another couple of live streams before the season finishes. And yeah, then it's going to start coming into my winter, which is getting me pretty excited. So stoked for that to happen. All right. Thanks heaps. Take it easy. And I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.